a question, there are two options to do that. You can type your question into the chat box, which is along the bottom. Just click chat and put your question in. Or if you're not able to type into the chat box, you can call Elizabeth and leave a voicemail and she'll pick up your message and we'll relay that to one of the speakers as it relates to their question. So that is at 780-903-7721 and we'll put that in the chat for you. And questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. And that's all for housekeeping matters. And now I will pass it to Zachary to provide a bit of context and we will begin with the program.
For sure. Well, thank you so much, Michelle, and thank you to everyone joining us here today. It's an honor to be here to help celebrate today's special day. That said, 2025 has been a difficult year for the disability community with the Canada Disability Clawback, um, the introduction of ADAP, and many other challenges along the way, whether it's related to accessibility or just trying to get by in today's day and age in Alberta. And we recognize that people are feeling fearful and uncertain, but today we want to acknowledge and celebrate the incredible response to these difficult times with the disability advocates pushing back. And you see here on your screen some of them that are doing tremendous work across the province of Alberta. But to start us off on the right path, I want to introduce Cheryl Chagnon. Sorry, my French is not that good. Uh, who is going to start today with a cultural welcome and blessing. In keeping with tradition, we virtually give Cheryl ceremonial tobacco to thank her for sharing her wisdom and experience. And Cheryl will explain the significance of the tobacco gift and give her blessing. So I will pass it over to Cheryl now to do that.
Thank you, Zachary. Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you, Michelle. And thank you to all of you gathered here today. Um, there's a reason why we give tobacco to traditional knowledge keepers, ceremonialists, elders. And the Indigenous way of knowing it's a type of protocol. And it shows that the person who is gifting the tobacco comes with a good heart, good intent in the right way. And it shows respect and humility. And it is in keeping with cultural practice. It shows respect, especially. And I'm always grateful and honored and humbled to be able to share in a good way. My name on my taxes is Cheryl Shunyer Gray Eyes. I am Cree from Muskeg Lake Cree Nation, Treaty 6, Saskatchewan. I am mother of two, Cookum, that means grandmother, to 5 beautiful grandchildren. I live here in Mohkinstsis in Calgary, but I consider myself a guest here. I'm from Treaty 6. Even though I've been living in Calgary since 1993, I honor and respect the people of Treaty 7. And I wish to share with you a treaty acknowledgement, a territorial acknowledgement that is a little bit different from others you may have heard before. And for me, it's a gift from Creator. He literally woke me up and had me go type this on the computer. So I share this in a good way. And I invite you to let my voice, my words, take you on a trip through time and space. You can close your eyes if you wish. Take a deep breath in and feel the land under your feet. We are visitors to this land, the lands of the Treaty 7 people, the lands before. This place that we call Calgary, Mohkinstsis, Elbow in Blackfoot. It is a meeting of the Bow and the Elbow rivers, the joining of the waters, firmament and fluid, left by ancient glaciers and melting waters, land rising, dripping, drying into dust and dirt. The Siksika Ititapi, the original peoples of these prairies, foothills, mountains. They are the Blackfoot of Siksika, Gaina, and Pigani, sustained by the bison, the buffalo, the Ini, nomads, walking in the footsteps of their ancestors. The Dene of Tutuna, the beaver peoples. They are the Sarsi people from far north, stretching south across Turtle Island, separating, following land and waters, walking, trekking, heading north, heading south, forward, onward. The Stony people, Eohe Nakoda, of Minithani, which means cold water. Bearspaw, Chiniki, and Good Stony nations. Horses and hooves, hunting and hiking, seeking and searching for that life-giving, living food and provisions for their families. The proud, hardworking Métis, newer to this land yet still connected to their relatives, their ancestors, to those who came before. Following the bison, the sustenance of the peoples, footprints in the blackened earth, footfalls forming paths through grasses and forests, climbing hills and mountains, forward, onward. Connected to land and spirit, to ancestors and future kin, those who have been on this land for millennia, thousands of years, living, dying, fighting, thriving, sharing, close to spirit and to land always. We walk in their ancient footsteps, footfalls, now sidewalks, hooved earth, now roadways, roots linked to those ancient roots of family, of blood, of remembering, of spiritual connection to those who came before and to those who are still here. We are visitors to these lands. We must walk these lands with respect and humility, in gratitude and appreciation, in recognition of those who came before. These are the lands of the Treaty 7 people. Thank you, Creator, for blessings received. You can open your eyes now. In my way, when we start an event, we start with prayer and or song, and you get a prayer song. And it's Mia Sin by Joseph Natuhau, Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation, Treaty 6, Saskatchewan. Probably a cousin. We tend to be related in Saskatchewan. I'm always grateful for that. And I always say where my songs come from. This is Mia Sin, the Cree welcome song. Mia Sin, Mia Sin, Asemina, Asemina. Hey, oh, I forgot to tell you. Mia Sin means beautiful in Cree. And I sing this song to honor your beautiful spirits. Forgot to share that at the beginning. Makes it a little more meaningful when I sing this song. Just saying. Here I go. Mia Sin. Mia Sin. Mia Sin. Asemina. Asemina. Epeta kote kiwa no magan. Ota oma kitaskino. Miasen, miasen, asemina, asemina, Epita kote iwigomagan. Ota oma kitaskino. Miyasen, miyasen, asemina, asemina, epetakote, iwanomagan, ota, oma. Kitaskino. Welcome to each and every one of you and your beautiful spirits that you brought here to share today. Enjoy this beautiful day in this beautiful time of connecting and coming together. Thank you very much for inviting me to open this up in a good way. And I wish you all a beautiful day and stay warm and be safe. Thank you. Hey, hi, hi.
Well, thank you very much, Cheryl, for that amazing opening. I don't know about the rest of you, but I feel super calm now and relaxed. So any nerves that I did have are gone. But nonetheless, we really appreciate your presence, Cheryl, and that blessing. But let's move on to our first speaker of the day, and that is Patty Desjardins, who is an adjunct professor and practicum coordinator at the University of Calgary, and that is in the community rehabilitation and disability studies area. So I will pass it over to Patty, and feel free to add any other details I may have missed, Patty, before you present.
Thanks, Zach. No, you didn't miss anything, but thank you very much. And yeah, Cheryl, thank you so much for that. I have to say that just as an add-on, that I have Nada Howe family members, and I am from the Treaty 6 area in Saskatchewan, so I actually appreciate and know that we're all, and remind you that, or bring forward that we really truly all are connected. So I guess I'm just going to wait until my slides come up, and then um, I can just, my role here in the program today was really to kind of set the tone. And so I sort of feel a little intimidated in terms of what that's going to look like or what that means. But I'm certainly very honored to be part of this celebration. And I truly see it as a celebration, as not only the position that I hold as an educator. I'm also a mother of two children, two sons, adult sons with disabilities. And I hope that as a mother, I have been able to instill in them a sense of celebration of how they move through the world, and the fact that that part of their identity is as disabled men is as relevant and important as their roles as sons and fathers and uncles and employees and ACE recipients and whatnot. So I think it's really important as a collective community that we take the notion of being stronger together as a call to action of its own. Next slide, Elizabeth, if you don't mind. So, in preparation for today and thinking about how I would sort of introduce or kind of bring this tone to the presentation, I was moved to take a look at the Convention of Rights of Persons with Disabilities and to acknowledge that IDPD is in celebration of the fact of the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the United Nations Convention. And because Canada, as one of the first signatories of the convention, because they've signed on and also ratified it, one of the responsibilities of all states, nations who sign on to this convention is that they report back to a committee periodically on the kinds of actions and the kinds of things they've done um, as advocates to create change and to adhere to the articles outlined in the convention. And so, ironically, it was Canada just reported back to the CRPD in the spring of 2025. And in their report, and I've given a link there, so I don't know if anybody would be interested in reading it if you haven't already done so. The things that stood out to me, apart from the fact that they drew positive attention to about 19 different initiatives that have been devoted to addressing disability in terms of accessibility, employment, election reform, access to post-secondary education, poverty reduction, and housing, just to name a few. Some of the things that they went on to highlight were the concerns and recommendations that numbered into about 67 different areas. So what that tells me is that there's still a considerable amount of work to be done, and that in the actions of disability advocacy, that there are a lot of different ways that we can take that up. So what that says to me also is that in those recommendations, some of the things that really stood out to me was the committee's constant reference to intersectionality and the notion that as within the disability community, the notion of disability as an identity marker, although it may be oftentimes in some cases the single identity that people tend to want to kind of rally around, or others may want to silo that person in. That's just one of a number of different identities so many people hold. And so it is noting that that individuals with disabilities also hold identities around their gender, their ethnicity, their religion, their culture, their age, even their sexuality. And so it becomes one of many ways that we can think about things. And so when you look at the recommendations that the committee made, it is around not acknowledging what still needs to be done in terms of women with disabilities, disabled children, thinking about that intersection between ethnicity and disability, around sexuality and disability. And even within the recommendations, there were actions that related to aspects of faith and disability. And so that brings me to the idea of Patty Burns' disability justice framework, which was a concept or a framework that I introduced a couple months ago in the Lunch and Learns for the CPAA. And what Patty Burns' framework is, Patty Burns is a disabled woman who developed a framework for thinking about advocacy and taking things up that is more of a social justice approach. It isn't rooted so much we'll go back a little bit. It isn't so much rooted in the notion of human rights as in those legalities and the rights of individuals from that sort of litigation perspective, but it's really kind of rooted in the idea that that disability goes beyond a rights framework, and it rejects that notion that everything has to be rooted in independence, and advocates more for a sense of interdependence, collective access, and collective liberation. And so it notes, even though there are those notes of that all bodies are equal and everybody has that everyone is still of value. Elizabeth, can you put it back on the previous slide? Thank you. That it also kind of leans into the notion of recognizing that that individuals need to be attended to their strengths, and that they bring strengths and they bring gifts, and not just about always kind of perceiving them from that needs perspective. it looks at that from an empowerment perspective and moves beyond the idea that that anybody is just a one-dimensional a person that is who is only defined by their disability. Okay, you can go to the next slide now. Thanks. So what Burns put forward are, in terms of a disability justice framework, are 10 different principles. And I don't know that they're that clear on the screen because I know everybody's screen is probably about as big as mine, and so I apologize. I did the last time I presented this, I was asked to sort of use more plain language or find ways to express these 10 principles in more plain language. So I've done that on here. So I hope that that's helpful. But I certainly am happy to share this with anybody who might be interested, or send it to Michelle and or give Elizabeth permission to share this with anybody who might be interested. But what the 10 principles take up is a knowledge that some of these things that are pretty familiar within the disability advocacy community, the idea that people are, that hold more value than just how productive they are, that anti-capitalistic perspective, recognizing that people are whole people and not just defined by their disability. Certainly making sure that leadership by those who with lived experience takes a central role. And that certainly is also then reflected in the themes of today's, the IDPD themes of today. Also, I think acknowledging the commitment to cross-disability solidarity, noting that anybody with any type of disability should be allowed to take up advocacy and to be able to be part of a disability justice. It's not just confined to certain people who have certain ways of moving through the world. But some of the other aspects, some of the other principles that I think stand that are a little bit more unique, but hopefully will can be taken up, are the ideas, like I said, around intersectionality, which I think are really important, and perhaps most important in the acknowledgement that we can look at cross-movement solidarity and recognize that there are a lot of different marginalized communities that take up in many ways some of the same issues that the disability community takes up. And so when we think about the queer community, different ethnic communities, different religious communities, different cultural communities, we can not only note that there are members within our own disability community that also identify with with those different types of identities. But I think also more importantly in the Advocacy Act, we can also then remind some of those communities that disability is also a part of those as well. And so in that cross-movement solidarity, we can create that collective access and that collective liberation around making sure that that we remain sort of those shared identities and acknowledge in ways that note of being stronger together really certainly is a call to walk the talk. So finally, yeah, I'd just like to say thank you very much, everybody, for allowing me to be part of this. I hope that that sort of presents a way to frame the rest of the day in that true celebration. I wanted to be able to like throw confetti and really see this as a celebration day, although I realized if I threw confetti, I'd just have to clean it up. So I look forward to, yeah, that's it. So I look forward to all the wisdom and the insights that the upcoming speakers have. And again, thank you very much for allowing me to be part of this. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Patty. And I mean, you certainly, I believe you certainly set us off on the right track in terms of all that wisdom that you just shared with us. And a lot of those key themes are certainly coming together throughout Alberta, and they need to continue doing so if we want to make sure that our voice is heard and that we are living our life to our utmost. Uh, and in the spirit of quality of life increasing, we need to continue to have each other's back and really embrace each other's individuality and bring each other's strengths out as we continue to, advocate for ourselves and take time to also celebrate as well, because I do believe, despite everything that's going on in the world, that we are moving the needle in the right direction. And it can be hard to see that sometimes when you're so close to some really negative things that are happening. But nonetheless, I digress. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your presentation and for joining us here today.
Well, I would also point out that one of the principles is sustainability. So it is that notion that
Mm,
this is a long road, but that not to get discouraged. And I think that in pulling toward also then reaching out and finding recruiting allies to be able
yeah,
to make
absolutely.
sure that we're not the only people sort of banging this drum.
Yeah, and that's a key thing to any sort of movement when it comes to sustainability. When you look at history, a lot of the, if not all of the marginalized groups have come together with allies to help carry that, because it is mentally, physically exhausting to bang your head against the wall day in, day out. So, um, and take lots of Tylenol. But nonetheless, I will move on to our next presenter, who is a dear friend of mine, Dr. Heidi Jans, who is a longtime disability rights advocate. She's an academic, filmmaker, and playwright. And she's a core faculty member and associate adjunct professor at the John Dossier Health Ethics Center of University of Alberta, specializing in disability ethics. Her research and teaching focus is on ableism, particularly medical ableism, and she has been published in the Lancet Canadian Medical Association Journal, The Conversation in Canada, and other journals. Through her work, she educates professionals across medicine, health sciences, social sciences, and the arts about ableism's widespread and often deadly effects on disabled people. So, without further ado, I will pass it over to Dr. Heidi Jans.
Thanks for that, Zachary. Um, let me continue. I'm going to continue the balancing act of looking at the realities facing disabled people in Alberta. We're all celebrating our collective strengths. No. So roll it, please.
I'm sorry, bear with me. I have some technical difficulties. It should start soon.
Is this where I start to tell jokes?
Yeah, you can try.
Well, I would, but none of these jokes are very PG rated, and I understand that we're on YouTube, so we don't want to be getting in trouble with YouTube.
Okay, I will try to figure it out. I don't know what is wrong on my end, but it worked well when I was trying. Here we are.
For many disabled people in general and disability rights advocates in particular, working cooperatively and building alliances are both survival skills and traits for which they are known. For many disabled people in general and disability rights advocates in particular, working cooperatively and building alliances are both survival skills and traits for which they are known. Another trait often found to be common among disabled people in general and disability rights advocates in particular is a sardonic sense of humor, which often enables us to flip ableism, even in its most deadly form, on its head in order to expose its true absurdity. It was out of both these traits that the People's Alliance for Disabled Albertans, PADA, was born. PADA is, of course, a rather ingenious inversion and subversion of the acronym for the new Alberta Disability Assistance Program, ADAP. From its initial inception, PADA was conceived of as a disability-led force, whose purpose it is to oppose the implementation of ADAP through a variety of means. PADA focuses on education, empowerment, community supports, and collective advocacy. PADA takes as its inspiration and model pivotal disability rights advocacy actions of the past, including the following. In 1977, Judy Heumann and hundreds of disabled leaders staged the 504 sit-ins, occupying federal buildings for nearly a month until the U.S. government finally signed regulations protecting our civil rights. They won because they were united, disciplined, and disabled-led. The Black Panthers built survival programs, free breakfasts, health clinics, legal aid, proving that when the state failed, the community would survive on its own terms. The Industrial Workers of the World, IWW, declared an injury to one is an injury to all and built solidarity that terrified bosses and governments alike. ADAPT chained their wheelchairs to buses in 1983 and forced America to make transit accessible because they refused to move until they won. Disabled Albertans are now facing a similarly pivotal and perilous moment in their history. The UCP government's introduction of Bill 12 last week confirmed many of our worst fears about ADAP, while at the same time leaving enough uncertainty to continue fueling extremely high levels of anxiety. Consequently, this is a time in which PADA's emphasis on fostering community is very much needed. PADA has been and continues to be active in fostering community in several ways. Firstly, we have social media pages, which collectively have over 800 followers, as well as disseminating news and public education pieces around ADAP. These social media pages serve as a means of connecting people in the disability community who are impacted by ADAP. In addition to our social media pages, PADA also has a Signal group, which functions as its operational hub. Our Signal group is divided into several subgroups to facilitate the division of labor. These subgroups include a comms crew, an advocacy crew, an announcement section, and an unmoderated social group, which is a chat space where PADA members can connect to get to know one another and share their own frustrations and fears, as well as some of what's happening in their daily lives. We also have a subgroup for our current PATA founding members' leadership, which we have named the prop heads. Admittedly, this name requires a little more explanation than the others. Similar to the way in which PATA inverts and subverts the acronym ADAP, naming our founding members' leadership group the prop heads is intended to be a declaration that, as disabled people, we refuse to be used as props the way Jason Nixon surrounded himself with disabled people at the news conference where he announced the creation of ADAP. By contrast, we are not props, but prop heads, alluding also to our role in speaking truth to power. Thus, taken as a whole, our social media pages and signal groups all function in service of our primary goal, namely to build community as we oppose the implementation of ADAP. PATA's inaugural public protest action was a die-in rally that was held on October 30th on the grounds of the provincial legislature. Capitalizing on the fact that this die-in rally was being held on Halloween Eve, we settled on ADAP, a deadly ableist plan, as the theme for the rally. We encouraged people to come in costume if they wanted to, particularly if they were concerned about maintaining their anonymity, and to bring homemade urns to represent the losses that ADAP would cause. Suggestions for urn labels included dignity, security, freedom, and choice. Organizing an in-person event involving ideally large numbers of disabled people inherently comes with challenges related to logistics, such as transportation, and simply mobilizing people to physically attend. Add to this the fact that this was an outdoor event taking place at the end of October in Alberta, and it was more than enough to cause most, if not all, of us prop heads to question our judgment, and perhaps even our sanity. Adding to our pre-rally anxiety was the revelation that the Legislature Grounds Administration had booked a student rally protesting the government's back-to-work legislation that ended the teachers' strike for 11 a.m. And our rally was to begin at noon. We fretted that the students' rally would totally overshadow ours in terms of garnering media attention. We fretted about what we would do if the students' rally went over time and cut into our time. And we fretted that some disabled folks coming to our rally may get lost and or overwhelmed in the crowd of students. Happily, though, things turned out, all of that fretting turned out to be a waste of energy. As disability rights advocates, we should have remembered that opportunities to recruit new allies are always a good thing, no matter how unexpected and inconvenient they may initially seem. The reality was that most of the things that we had fretted about in advance were circumvented by a brief conversation with the organizers of the student rally and an invitation to them to stay after their rally and join ours, which they did. The result, not only were our numbers bolstered, but a whole group of young Albertans learned about the lethal danger that systemic ableism enacted through ADAP poses for disabled Albertans. It would, of course, be wonderful if I could end this presentation by talking about how we are starting to see evidence that PATA's advocacy efforts are causing the government to rethink its planned implementation of ADAP. Unfortunately, we're not, so I can't. However, what I can end this presentation talking about is the fact that through the creation of PATA, disabled Albertans are connecting, organizing, and mobilizing in new ways to meet the existential threat that ADAP poses. Through PATA's social media pages and signal groups, we are finding new ways to connect, amplify our voices, and create new networks of support, which will better enable us to face the challenges of the perilous times in which we find ourselves. PATA is thus helping disabled Albertans rediscover and reaffirm the truth that we are indeed stronger together
Well, that was an awesome presentation, Heidi. Thank you so much for taking the time to not only demonstrate, what we're currently seeing in Alberta and the impacts that's causing on persons with disabilities throughout Alberta, but to also encourage us to continue gathering and uniting as one and learning from history what that can look like and how powerful it can be. And I do believe we put the link to the social media page for PATA in the chat. So if anyone wants more information on that or is interested in joining, you can certainly reach out to them on Facebook or maybe Heidi, and we can get you set up with that because there are some truly great things coming out of that group and will be in the future. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, if you have any questions about that, drop them in the chat and or about any other of the presentations we've had so far. But nonetheless, I want to keep us moving along to respect everyone's time. Next up, we have Daryl Leary. Now, Daryl's a secular humanist recognized by none other than the Guinness World Records and Ripley's Believe It or Not, and local media for his contributions to Google Maps and Street View. He's autistic and lives with severe generalized anxiety and chronic depression and is an ACE recipient. He's also a blood donor and creator of the very popular petition that you may have seen circulating around online to cancel ADAP. So I will pass the virtual microphone over to Daryl to give his presentation.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so I'm basically okay, I made some notes here. Okay, I have developed a paper petition which basically worded to the Legislative Assembly of Alberta in the legislature assembled, we, the undersigned residents of Alberta, petition the Legislative Assembly to urge the government to take all necessary steps to A, halt the proposed transition of assured income for the severely handicapped ACE recipients into the Alberta Disability Assistance Program, ADAP, as this transition would reduce essential supports for Albertans with disabilities. B, cancel the proposed ADAP program. C, maintain existing ACE supports, including benefit levels and earning exemptions. And D, ensure that all applicants for disability assistance have access to fair appeals process. So this is basically what my paper petition is urging the legislature assembly to do, or the government to do. Okay, so first I'm gonna start off with explaining how people can get involved and how they can find it. If you go onto Google, for example, you can type in ADAP petition, and that's going to bring you to the online petition. I have two petitions going on right now. I have the online petition and I have the paper petition. On the online petition, there's a link that you can click that will direct you to the official paper petition website. And on that website, you can download the paper petition and print it out and collect signatures. And on that website is the appropriate address of my MLA's constituency office where it can be mailed to. This was the only the only mechanism that would allow this petition to circulate throughout Alberta that I could think of that would effectively work. Also, in the city of Edmonton, listed on the official petition website, is a bookstore where people can walk into and sign the petition in person. And there's also another location in Red Deer. It's a thrift shop where people can walk in and sign the petition in person. Right now, we have about 24 people collecting signatures. I myself collected a total of 418 signatures. In my house right now, I have just over 1,000 signatures. And among the couple dozen people, we haven't received the signatures yet, because the due date is March 1st of 2026. So I really don't. It could be a few thousand. It could be a few thousand signatures. Because I've heard numbers all over the place. Other people have collected several hundred signatures. So I really don't know. There's been some good success with this. I was interviewed by CTV Edmonton News about the paper petition in the earlier days. Political social media influencer Lisa B, who has just over 100,000 followers on TikTok, also mentioned it, which is really good because she's one of the two most known political social media influencers for Alberta. The other one, of course, is Nate of the Breakdown, which you guys, I'm sure, are familiar. The story was also reported by the Red Deer Advocate and the Red Deer News Now, because a lady by the name of Terry Grills spread the news about the petition in Red Deer, and she was the one that was able to secure a place where people can go in person and sign the petition. Another way that people can find my petition online is they can Google my name and it will bring up my website. And once it brings up my website, then it's right there. It's the first thing that comes up on my website, Daryl Leary. Okay, what else? What else? I did speak at the last ADAP protest. I've actually spoken at a few protests. The online petition, which is not the same as the paper petition. There's an important difference. The online petition has legal limitations. In other words, it's not recognized by the Alberta legislature, but it's very effective at spreading awareness online. And because of the online petition, far more people know about the issue than know about the issue from the paper petition. So on the online petition itself, it has received just over 4,088 signatures. What I find most interesting about that is not just the number of people that signed it, but the fact that people have donated over $3,000 to help promote it. And of course, the more it gets promoted, the greater the awareness spreads of the issue that's impacting those of us that are on AISH. And yeah, so I mean, people, there have been a couple dozen people that have donated, or maybe about a dozen people that have donated as much as $100 a person, just to help the online petition gain traction. The online petition is also really good for attracting media attention because it provides a visible metric that they can report on, sort of a measure of the amount of interest and engagement the amount of concern within the community. But it's the paper petition that really counts in legislature. But I am looking for ways to effectively leverage both of them. When all the signatures are collected at my Haji Sharif Haji's Edmonton Decor constituency office, then before March 1st of 2026, then he's gonna table them for the spring session of next year, just before the proposed ADAP program begins. There's been okay, I have about a minute and a half. Anyways, I was going to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak about this petition. Information about the petition can easily be found in one of many AISH Facebook groups. It's been shared in pretty much all of them. It gets the odd mention on Enough is Enough. There's definitely interest, and there's definitely people that want to help, and it continues to have its challenges, though. I mean, there's always challenges associated with this kind of thing that I try to address, logistics and that type of thing. So I hope I did a thorough job of explaining all of that. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, Daryl. And, I want to commend you and celebrate you and your efforts for the tremendous courage it takes to, and I'm not saying this in a way to, say, oh, good job. I truly mean, it takes a lot of courage to step up and lead these sort of things. So I, alongside many others, are celebrating you today in recognition of IDPD, and it's a great example, a real life example of how we can be stronger together with all the signatures that you've created or gathered rather and created, I guess, to highlight that people with disabilities deserve to take up space and live a life with quality. So thank you, Daryl, and I'm sure you'll hopefully get some more signatures and some visits to your website regarding the ADAP petition. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I've put the link to Daryl's website into the chat, so you can just go right there and pick it up and visit his site, and you'll see the petition. Thank you so much, Daryl.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and next up we have Kat Hedges, who comes to the advocacy and policy world with lived experience both personally and professionally. Now, Kat is a member of the Barrier Free Alberta committee associated with Cerebral Palsy Alberta and is here to talk about a new campaign that they are launching. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Kat to tell us more about this new campaign.
All right, can everyone hear and see me in my slides?
Sure can.
Amazing. All right, I'm going to get started, folks. Thanks so much to all the other speakers, and good afternoon. And thank you so much for being here, everyone. Today is a day to promote our rights and well-being International Day of Persons with Disabilities is also a chance to show the diversity of our shared human experience and an opportunity to show the courage and strength that we are forced to action every single day to live within social systems that weren't created with us in mind. Today, Barrier Free Alberta is launching our new media campaign, Accessibility More Than You Think. This afternoon, I'm here to share with you why that message matters. Accessibility is not only modifications to the built environment like ramps or wider doorways. These are without a doubt essential accessibility features. What I'm here to talk about today is that accessibility is more than that. Many of us here agree that accessibility cannot simply be a guideline or a checkbox. People with disabilities know that accessibility shapes how we live our lives today and every day. Accessibility determines whether we move through the world with confidence and support or with fear and isolation. To tell you what that means, I want to share a story. Her name is Rose. Rose is a fictional person, but her story is built from many truths. Rose represents the many people whose stories I've heard over the years as an advocate, as a former community support worker, as a fellow disabled person, and most often as a friend. Rose is in her mid-40s. She uses the power wheelchair. She has low vision and lives with bipolar disorder that has been well managed for many years with the right care and medication. Rose is incredibly bright, grounded, and absolutely hilarious. Rose earned a PhD, but she'll tell you she prefers professor to doctor when in the classroom any day of the week. She teaches part-time at a local university and sings loudly in her church choir, even when she's off key. Rose knows her neighbors, and they know her. Her life is full, meaningful, and entirely her own. And for years, she lived exactly that life. Rose lived that life until one small human preventable error caused everything around her to wobble. Because when one pillar of accessibility cracks, the others begin to shake under that pressure of uncertainty. Before I continue with Rose's story, I want you to understand what I mean when I refer to connected pillars of accessibility. Next to me here, you'll see a wheel with 10 spokes around a colorful center circle. Each spoke represents one of the 10 pillars of accessibility. The pillars are represented as spokes to show that they are interconnected and rely on each other. Each spoke is numbered 1 through 10, each with a different color, and at the end of each spoke is a circle with a black on white simple icon representing each pillar. I'm going to list each pillar 1 to 10: employment, transportation, housing, procurement, justice, programs and services, education, health, communications, and the built environment. Like spokes on a manual wheelchair, if one or more is damaged or removed, the entire wheel is unstable. This can result in the wheel collapsing, causing harm to the user relying on that wheel. Now let's get back to Rose. One small preventable human error that shook up her life was a one-time medication mistake made by a team with the best of intentions, but didn't fully understand the stakes. And this pushed Rose into a mental health crisis. That moment set off a chain reaction. First responders arrived wanting to help, but they didn't have the training needed to safely support someone who uses a wheelchair, has low vision, and is in psychiatric distress. They had the goodwill, but not the tools. When the crisis passed, Rose learned she couldn't return to her accessible care home, not because she had done anything wrong and not because her long-term needs changed, but because the system wasn't flexible enough to support someone through a temporary and avoidable crisis event. They said it was out of their hands, mental health support just wasn't in their mandate, and Rose was deemed a risk, even after she was stabilized according to her medical team, even though the medication error was completely out of her control. There was no accessible housing available. So Rose stayed in hospital, not because she needed medical care in hospital, but because there was nowhere else for her to go. This is what inaccessibility looks like: a hospital bed standing in for a home. During her stay, a member of her transition team said Rose might lose her power chair, that same chair she used safely and independently for decades. Yet again, Rose was deemed a safety risk, which would affect her housing, this time because of her visual impairment. Imagine being told that the one tool that gives you freedom might be taken away because a policy didn't account for someone like you. Meanwhile, her employer wanted her back. They valued her and understood her worth. But academic calendars don't adjust for housing shortages. The next opportunity for her to return was almost a year away. So she entered the well-known maze of disability income support, forms, deadlines, phone waits, caseworkers, all while carrying the fear that the one small mistake could cost her her housing that she didn't even have yet. Accessibility isn't just can you get into the building, it's also can your life hold together when life happens. With a strong patient advocate, Rose was able to keep her power chair after a series of tests to prove that she could use it safely. No add-ons like proximity sensors for wheelchair users with low vision were procured for her. Eventually, housing was found, but it was in a seniors facility, far away from Rose's community, far from her friends, and far from the church that had been her spiritual home for years. Her new local church wasn't accessible. Her old church became a long, exhausting trip away. She attended online and was grateful for it. The screens did provide connection, but they didn't provide the belonging that Rose yearned for in her spiritual life. Many people understand that accessibility is physical and mental. Many do not understand that it is also social, emotional, and spiritual all at once. For people with disabilities, accessibility is the difference between living in community and simply living next to one. It was Rose's first week in her new care home, and she had been out and about with her family, learning her new neighborhood, and she was still feeling confident, but also really cautious about this new environment. So when Rose went out to catch her scheduled accessible bus for a medical appointment, she noticed that the sidewalk had no tactile paving, no textured indicators to let her feel where that curb cut was. Rose relied on the sound of the bus, her careful survey of the area with her white cane, to find that curb cut amongst fresh piles of snow. But without tactile cues, she misjudged the edge and she fell. Rose was injured, badly. She returned to the hospital, not because of her disability, but because her environment was not designed with her accessibility in mind. Her housing program lacked walkout support services for areas where the environment was inaccessible. One small patch of tactile paving could have changed the outcome entirely. When one spoke and this wheel over here cracks, the others strain under that pressure. When several fail, the structure collapses and people fall. They fall and get hurt. They fall through the cracks in our social system, and they fall into unrecognizable lives that were forced upon them. Rose's story shows us that accessibility is not 10 separate categories. It's one connected life supported by these many systems: employment, transportation, housing, procurement, justice, programs and services, education, health, communications, and the built environment. Rose's story and so many like hers reveal that Alberta's approach to accessibility hinders everyday Albertans from understanding what accessibility actually means. We aim to change that conversation in Alberta because accessibility is more than you think. Accessibility more than you think is not a slogan. It's both an invitation and a challenge. It asks us to stop framing disability as a problem and start recognizing inaccessible systems as what they are: inhumane. It reminds us that accessibility is a public responsibility. So, what does this look like in practice? Accessibility means training first responders, healthcare workers, program leaders, and service providers with intersectional knowledge, grounded in the reality of lived experiences of people with disabilities with a variety of other identities. Accessibility means building and managing housing systems that welcome people home after hospital stays. It means designing transportation systems that connect people rather than isolate them. It means workplaces that hold space for people's realities instead of closing doors even unintentionally. It means infrastructure where no one has to choose between safety and independence or interdependence. So, right now, right here, I call on you to bear witness to the many stories behind Rose and Albertans like her: stories of talent and joy, isolation, frustration, stories of fear, humor, belonging, and pain, and stories of strength and anger, hope, and determination. Today, on International Day of Persons with Disabilities, we call on Alberta to recognize that accessibility is not charity, it is not a favor, and it is not optional. Accessibility is a human right. And we call on Alberta to recognize this right. We call on Alberta to put a stop to the clawbacks, to rescind the cruel and unusual cuts and changes to disability supports, disability programs, and disability services. Those calls to action are for Rose and all the people who keep pushing through systems that aren't built for us, for the families and friends who support and care for us, for the disability advocates who stay the course, because until something changes, we can only trust our community to hold each other up. Today and every day, and thereafter, until we're successful, we call on Alberta to enact strong and effective accessibility legislation. And we also call on you and on all Albertans to learn more about accessibility and to provide province-wide public support for accessibility legislation. Because accessibility isn't just more than you think. Accessibility can be love in policy form. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Kat, for that great presentation. it's great to hear that we're also, recognizing that accessibility is very real and often more than you think. And your story there about roads is a great example to Patty's earlier point in her presentation around intersectionality and how uh, not just people not just people intersectionality, but also the different pillars within accessibility and how they're linked together. So thank you for highlighting that. And I do believe there will be a social media campaign coming out that'll highlight what and break down these different spokes of that wheel and ask for stories from Albertans on each area. So I'm excited to see that launch and yeah, great presentation. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Zachary. And thanks everyone else for being here today.
You bet. All right, so we are going to move on to Ari Moritz, who is a multidisciplinary artist based in Calgary who uses her creativity as a means of expression and connection. Ari lives with rare, complex illnesses that are often invisible, but impact her life in significant ways. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Ari and feel free to take the virtual mic, Ari.
Thank you very much, Zachary, and thank you to all of the other panelists today. I truly appreciate everyone's words, and I'm excited to share Bubble Shuttle, which is a project I've been working on for quite some time, which is a lifeline in transportation. So we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So as a multidisciplinary visual artist, I have also created a documentary film which discusses the rare complex illnesses that I live with, which include things like Ehlers-Danlos, hyperPOTS, mast cell activation, and I am a cancer survivor. I dream of the world being changed by people with disabilities, and therefore Bubble Shuttle is something that was birthed forth from that. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I'd like everyone to just imagine for a minute being stuck inside for the majority of your life. Everyone got a little taste of this during the pandemic. And for someone like me, that has not ended. So because there's a lot of illnesses out there, airborne and otherwise, and being allergic to things like fragrance, I live a very isolated life. I live in solitude. I rarely see other people, and I don't really leave the house. So Bubble Shuttle is a service that would help people like myself to be able to traverse the world. It would also encompass everyone else with every kind of disability in order to give us some sort of independence. I lack independence in that capacity because there is no shuttle service available for people like me, being immunocompromised and being allergic to fragrance. Next slide, please. So Bubble Shuttle would help people like myself and others to traverse the world. Statistical data from 2020 says that around 14% of people over the age of 15 are immunocompromised. And if people don't know what that means, it means that our immune systems don't work like everybody else's. Basically, if we get something like a common cold, we can end up in the ICU for a really long time and potentially die because my body will not fight that kind of stuff off. So in Canada, 32.2% of people have had negative health effects from fragrances. These include things like asthma, mast cell activation, which is what I have, multiple chemical sensitivity, COPD, CF, SME, fibromyalgia, migraines, to name a few. Next slide, please. Bubble Shuttle would open up job opportunities for people who have complex illness and are fragrance intolerant. It would also help to make a fragrance-free work environment. This would be a positive thing for many of us that are unable to work because there are no jobs for people like me. Basically, the only thing that I would be able to do would be a remote job. And finding anything like that right now, especially since everyone's being forced back to go to the office, it's near impossible. Ideally, it would also help to lighten the load for caregivers because caregivers can burn out. It is something that I have experienced firsthand, and it is a challenge in itself to deal with that as a person who is chronically ill and also feels like I shouldn't be asking for help even though I need it. So, this would give people like myself and others the ability to leave the home and go to appointments or go to Nose Hill or go somewhere that you want to go. The premise of Bubble Shuttle is to go across Alberta in its entirety, not just from point A to point B within Calgary or point A to point B in Edmonton. It would be servicing places that are rural so that those people could get treatments like for cancer, as an example. And people who are fighting cancer generally become immunocompromised because chemotherapy does that to your body. It makes you much weaker and it makes it much harder to fight off infections. So isolation is sometimes due in those situations. Next slide, please. So the problem that I'm having right now is that I'm struggling to compile the market research that I need to show the underserved demographics like myself and other people with disabilities. I do know that there are shuttle services available both in Alberta and in Edmonton and Calgary. They're both different, but kind of similar. You use a bus ticket and you're in a shuttle service. However, those things do not help someone like me. So, Bubble Shuttle is something that would be able to help everyone in every facet of disability, but I need help with the research. It is something that I'm currently trying to do. I'm trying to build those numbers so that I can get Bubble Shuttle up and running and get it off the ground. Currently, right now, I do not have the numbers. I'm unable to get any of the grants that I would be able to get to make a non-for-profit shuttle service for Alberta. So to do that, I need your help. I need people to be filling out the surveys, sharing the surveys, and that kind of stuff so that we can move forward with getting the fundage to make Bubble Shuttle a reality. Next slide, please. So I kind of covered what I just said with the slide prior. So the research though is focusing on two demographics. So one would be for the caregivers behind the disabled individual to show that this is impacting them and how this would be a positive thing for caregivers to lighten that load and ideally also give people who are disabled more independence. Next slide, please. And then if you like, you're more than welcome to check out my documentary. Just search up Life in the Bubble Story Hive on YouTube, and you can learn more about me because it's way too much for me to get into right now. Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Ari. And I think one of the great, uh, I mean, one of the most important things I can take away from your presentation is the fact that disability goes beyond just the physical, uh, in that you are one of many, many Albertans that live with an invisible disability, and that's one of the things that is often forgotten when it comes to what accessibility looks like. Again, going back to Kat's presentation, accessibility is more than you think, and I think, a service like Bubble Shuttle is desperately needed, especially now that we're aware of those statistics, and how high they actually are. I wasn't aware of that, so thank you for educating me on that. And we certainly want to highlight your surveys, and they have been posted in the chat. So everyone attending, please fill out the survey, share it with someone you know who may know someone who may know someone, and let's help Ari get the research she needs to make this a reality, because I do believe that it is super creative and going to be super helpful. But as we know, we need to have the numbers to back it up. But yes, thank you for joining us, Ari. Please check out her documentary. I did have an opportunity to watch it. Again, learned a lot. And yeah, really appreciate you being such a badass for Alberta. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so we will move on to our last but not least presenter of the day. She is new to the disability scene, if I may say so myself. She is Elisa Nevin Pugh, who recently started her own business providing crisis counseling and motivational speaking. And I will say that she just launched a book, so please check it out. We will find the link and post it in the chat. But the unique thing that Elisa is going to present on is how she planned and implemented a solidarity rally in Cochrane to support the Act Now rallies for disability support. So, Elisa, without further ado, feel free to take the floor.
Thank you, Zach, and thank you everyone for having me. I feel honored to being the presence of such great minds today, and great and brave minds. And for the record, I apologize to ASL interpreters. I'm gonna try to stay on my notes as much as I can, but I go off a little bit. So what I wanted to begin with was that this advocacy campaign was not me. It was, and it did not start in 2020. It did not start in 2025. It began in March 2020, just before the pandemic. And I say that because that is when I entered into my church and now spiritual home, St. Andrew's United Church. They are a church based in love and grace, and the reason I say that is because when we walked in that first day, no one looked at my father and said, "What does she have?" They all looked down at me and talked to me in normal voices, normal pitch. I was one of them instantly. And this is important because many of the people from the church are grandparents, are cookums, sometimes great-grandparents. So what I'm saying is, just because an able-bodied person hasn't seen someone like me before, or maybe a more mature age, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will act unintentionally ableist. My church has become a second home, and my security when times get rough. Now, as I say that, I promise I'm not trying to convert anyone. This is the strongest community I have. Because as Zachary pointed out, my experience in the disabled advocacy community is quite new. I starting 2023, late 2023, and I found the community to be divisive at the time. Thank you for picking up the book. But I found the community, disability community, to be divisive and very against able-bodied participation. Now, as I said this, I understand many people with disabilities have been talked over, have been made to feel like their ideas are unimportant, so they want to make sure that things like disability like. But as we've been talking about today, allyship is the most important thing. So I said this because when I came to my church, I developed fast friends with many of the congregates. I asked them questions. I allowed them or their grandchildren to ask questions about me. I said prayers at our prayer time and was part of that community. And so when we got the first step of the advocacy, which was to get this benefit in the first place, I had many of my church friends sign the cards, mail the cards, and when we got the money, they cheered for me as much as anyone. They cheered for all of us. People they did not know. But when they heard that our premier in her decisions was taking it away, premier in her decision was taking away the funds, many people hugged me. Many people said, we're here for you if you need it, including a dear friend of mine who's able-bodied, Marcos. He was the one who suggested that we do a rally. The important thing here and why I said this is not me is when I gave that angry prayer, when I said what was going on, I had no intention. I wanted to crawl up into a ball and just not even move. Not get on my bed for days, but instantly I got the support. They were the ones that said we should do a rally. And it took a lot of work. I've never been so tired in my life trying to organize everything. But it took that friendship. And that was built on foundations of friendship. And so when we had the rally back in May, along with the Edmonton one, about 70 people from my church showed up. And I honestly think it was because I focused on friendship first. I wasn't always talking about advocacy. I was praying for other people's intentions. I was just a part of the community. So when the time came that I needed help, they were not seeing this, oh, please help me, I'm a girl in a wheelchair. They were seeing a friend that helped them. So I truly believe that our biggest gains in advocacy come from friendship, not I appreciate, before I continue, I appreciate all the statistics, all the information that has been shared today. So I do not want to disrespect all the hard work and diligence that went into those presentations. Believe me, I'm a women's studies major. I know what it means to have all those citations and hope somebody respects them. But I truly find that the biggest advocacy gains we have won as a community are when we have focused on our friendships, not only within this community, but particularly those outside the disability community. Because I often say if one disability person is grumpy or disrespectful to an able-bodied person, that just puts another barrier in front of the next person with a disability, because people are simple. They work on the social cognition theory, which states that if we have experience with one, that becomes our experience with all. I don't know where I can say that, but that's basically the definition. So if I act miserable every single time, people are going to see people with disabilities as miserable because they have that experience with me. But if I focus on the inspiration I get from my friends, family, and those people from history that I have at my bedside table, I'm sure I'm not the only one, or maybe that's just me, but I do have pictures of those from civil rights movements and cave box, for example, near my bedside to remind me what unity is about. To remind me that I'm not just speaking for quadriplegics or those with disabilities, but I'm speaking on issues that relate to everyone. A sense of community, a sense of safety, a sense of um belonging that we all desperately need. So on this day of persons with disabilities, I want to impress upon you the power of allyship. That just because people might not see us all the time, it doesn't mean they can't understand us. It doesn't mean they don't have compassion for a part. We just have to be the ones to take the step forward first. And I thank you for this opportunity. And I also have a YouTube channel, so if anyone who's spoken would like an interview, I'd love to speak with you about that. Thank you for this opportunity, and I wish you the most merry and blessed holidays. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Elisa, for your wonderful presentation around the rally and more so for leaving us with at least myself, with a sense of, positivity and solid reflection on what allyship should look like. And so thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to hearing from you. I'm sure we will hear from you again, because I can see the fire in your eyes there, and you have some really great points that have definitely hit amongst the crowd just by the floating hearts and the thumbs up and the laughs and all that good stuff. So thank you.
Thank you.
And yeah, we look forward to having you again.
Thank you so much. And again, I'm so honored to be around these um wonderful people with all these credentials. I feel honored and privileged, very humbled as well. Thank you.
Well, that is a perfect segue to my next introduction because I am honored to say that we have uh, Jacob McGregor, who is the chair of the Premier's Council on the status of persons with disabilities joining us here today. And I will turn it over to Jacob because he's much more esteemed and at a higher pay grade than me today. So I will turn it over to Jacob.
Good afternoon, everybody. As you heard, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I am Jacob McGregor, and I'm the chair of the Premier's Council on the Status of Persons with Disabilities. For those of you who don't know, the Premier's Council advises the government of Alberta on ways to strengthen inclusion for people with disabilities in the province. I feel very privileged and pleased to celebrate International Day of Persons with Disabilities with everybody here and to hear about all the hard work and incredible things this community is doing. I'd like to thank the organizers of this event and the Cerebral Palsy Association for putting on this wonderful virtual event this year. Since 1992, the United Nations International Day for Persons with Disabilities has been observed on December 3rd, which of course is today, and the UN does have a theme, but it's very opaque, so I'm going to um applaud the theme of this particular event, which is Stronger Together, because as somebody who's living through some of the frustrations and challenges that all of us in the disability community face, I would not be where I am and have the opportunity to improve the lives of Albertans with disabilities without the people around me. The importance of inclusion and accessibility can't be overstated. That's why you and everybody on Premier's Council work every day to empower persons with disabilities, not just on IDPD. To celebrate and recognize passion for making a difference, every year the Premier's Council presents annual awards to individuals and organizations who've greatly contributed to inclusion in Alberta over the past year. The Gary McPherson Leadership Award is presented to an individual who has demonstrated outstanding leadership or achievement in enriching the lives of persons with disabilities. It's named after Dr. Gary McPherson, who dedicated himself to furthering the ideals of equality and citizenship for Albertans. He also served as the first chair of Premier's Council, a role I'm now privileged to take on. This year's Gary McPherson Award recipient is Mr. Buddy Winder, who has worked for 30 years as the head of Winder Inclusive Community Services to ensure that disability services are person-centered and led and focused on real community inclusion. So, congratulations to Mr. Winder. Next, the Margot Bruner Advocacy Award is presented to an individual who demonstrates leadership and advocacy for the rights of persons with disabilities and demonstrates characteristics of inclusion, equity, and mentorship. The award is named after Margot Brunner, a longtime advocate in the disability community and executive director of a pan disability organization. Premier's Council decided to honor Margot's memory by creating this award in August of 2023. This year's recipient is Miss Jane Christensen, who, through her work as a facilitator at the Pathways to Success program in Strathmore, designs and delivers engaging art-based lessons that not only develop employability skills, but create a positive environment for participants. And as somebody who has no artistic skills whatsoever, I could probably benefit from this program. The Premier's Council Youth Award is presented to an individual or a team of individuals under the age of 25 who have made a significant contribution to creating an inclusive and accessible community. This could be in classrooms, neighborhoods, or on city or provincial teams, and could be done through a variety of avenues: education, advocacy, or volunteerism. We have multiple recipients of the Youth Award this year because this year's recipients are 3 students from the Composite High School of Life Skills program in Fort McMurray. Quentin Jaycox, Wali Abdul Muhammad, and Bella Carroll. These students have emerged as inspiring leaders through authentic outreach rooted in resilience and a desire to build understanding. At the 2024 IDPD event in Fort McMurray, they courageously shared their daily routines, challenges, and achievements, offering authentic perspective on living with a disability. If you want to find out more about this year's award recipients, Premier's Council, and the Premier's Council Awards, please visit our website, which is hopefully being shared in the chat as I speak. I would once again like to thank everyone who worked to make this event possible. It's been absolutely enlightening and incredible to hear the work everybody is doing to make Alberta the best province possible to live with a disability. I am honored to be here, and thank you to everyone for taking the time today.
Well, thank you so much, Jacob, for joining us today and announcing the award winners. Very deserving to each and every one of them. So, congratulations again on behalf of everyone here in the room to the award winners. We are over time, but I will confirm that you can learn more about the Premier's Council on the status of persons with disabilities by visiting the website in the chat and learn more about the award recipients. And yeah, in light of everyone's time, I will wrap it up here real quick. I just want to say thank you so much to each and every one of you who have joined us here today for sharing your presentations, for listening, for being an ally, whatever role you play in showing up for a better Alberta. We are all for it. And I want to say thank you to Audrey and Jenny, our ASL interpreters, who joined us here today. We couldn't do this without you. Literally nothing about us without us. So please drop an emoji in the chat or the reaction to show your appreciation for Audrey and Jenny. But I do wish each and every one of you a great remainder to your day. And thank you for showing up and continuing to show up for those with disabilities. And I wish you nothing but the best this holiday season. Please stay safe and love each other. Thanks so much.
Have my mute on.
Okay, thank you so
Excellent job,
much.
everyone.
Thank you
Excellent
very
job.
much.
Thank you for being here, Jacob. Sorry that we kind of put you at the end there. We had
Hey, no problem. It was short notice. I was actually gonna make an ADAP joke since I was one of the people on stage.